your book and the excerpts coming out. So let's get into some of this stuff right here. Overall, this book, for anyone who knows, it's not just about the departure. It starts when, this book? When did you first start to report on stuff? How far back are you going here in this book, Seth?
Yeah, I mean, I go back to, Bill Belichick's, coaching career, before he was with the Patriots, and I go back to Tom Brady's, childhood in San Mateo. And, my goal with the book was to try to get at as thoroughly and as accurately and as best I could how these two men became so great. And then another part of it was like, what were the costs of that greatness? What were the what are the sacrifices that they make that might end up lingering longer because of what they wanted to achieve? And so, I went back as far as I felt like I needed to try to answer those questions as best as I could.
Well, I mean, and just for those who are going to get it, and I can't endorse it any harder than just not only having you on the show, but just again, starting to read it last night. It just sucked me straight in. Certainly in the prologue, which was the night of Brady's final game and the
Sure.
wild card round loss to Vrabel of all people in the Tennessee Titans. It's just it fills in a lot of blanks here, and I want to kind of go on one by one here. Of what we saw yesterday in the ESPN piece and pull a little bit out of you. Certainly, since Belichick has already said it's "quote unquote" not true that that he called Brady or only would get on the phone with Brady to say farewell at the quarterback's behest, wanting to meet personally. What about that exchange, Seth?
No, I'm happy to talk about that. I mean, I appreciate what Coach Belichick said. I stand by what I wrote, and the anecdote is really about Tom. And, it's well documented that the night that he told Robert Kraft that he was leaving, that he spoke to Bill by the phone. And he visited Robert Kraft in person, and he wanted to visit Belichick in person. And Belichick was just unavailable. And there was I don't know why he was unavailable. And so that's why, I think it's more of an anecdote about Tom where, I think that Tom wanted to see him. But when you look at that decision that he made, and obviously he's making that decision because of decisions to leave the Patriots, because of the decisions that Bill Belichick made, he later told a friend that night that, he thought it was telling of the state of their relationship, that they ended up talking on the phone. Good conversation, by the way, but that it was on the phone and not in person.
And so it's entirely possible that Belichick was either out of town or, you know what I'm saying? Like, is it feasible that there literally was no way for him to meet Brady, even though the sensibility would be, if, you move things around. It's not like he was sitting there catching up on Billions or something like that. You know what I mean? So,
which is a good show.
I agree. But
but again, it was about how Tom sort of took it and what he told one of his best friends that night about how it had transpired.
Okay. Another item that leaps out at me for sure is the fact that we found out through your book that Malcolm Butler did not play in Super Bowl 52 because he and Matt Patricia got into an argument, and Belichick just basically said, "That's it. You're going to play, but not play." I mean, what's this situation behind all that, Seth?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, Malcolm Butler's, benching in that Super Bowl has remained a mystery, and I did my best to try to look at what happened, and I think that, after his unbelievable interception against the Seahawks. Just things hadn't been quite right between him and the Patriots. Remember he was late for his first OTA after that, and there was a stare down with Belichick, and the NFLPA actually had to intervene. And then some of the coaches, I think they felt like that Butler had gotten a little bit too big. There was a contract dispute, didn't play great against the Falcons in the Super Bowl, and even Butler's admitted that, when in the practices, he got sick right before they played the Eagles in the Super Bowl and was hospitalized. And then when he came to practice, he's publicly admitted that he wasn't like as locked in as, he should have been. And I think that, the New England coaches can forgive a lot of sins, but not being locked in before a Super Bowl, I think, is one of those that was unforgivable. And so, Butler and Matt Patricia, who was the defensive coordinator at the time, had a couple heated exchanges at practice. And, he learned that, he was essentially that he was benched and that, his time as a Patriot was essentially over. And at the team party after they lost to the Eagles, he was deeply hurt and, knew that his time in New England was over. And, when teammates were asking him, like, what had happened, he had some choice words. And they're words that I can't even repeat on your show.
I know, and they're all in the book. But any sense as to why Belichick still dressed him? I mean, what's that all
question.
about?
I don't know why he was dressed for the game. I mean, obviously that game plan, they were having problems on defense. That's well documented. And, I have some discussions between the coaches at halftime about defensive adjustments that they needed to make in that game. I still don't know why, given the way that they were getting chewed up on defense, why they wouldn't even give him a look.
Seth Wickersham, author of It's Better to Be Feared, here on the Rich Eisen Show, going through some of the bullet points that we have already learned from his book, and let's keep going on for some of these as well. Brady, when you found out that Brady would have left, forced away to Los Angeles had there been a Los Angeles team
so
earlier?
That was, yeah, I mean, look, he had some, in the middle of the dynasty run, there was a
Which one?
Difficult, yeah, right. I mean, I feel like it lasted 20 years, but in the middle of it, when they were, going back to what I was referring to before, they were in that kind of plateau, or they had plateaued at this incredibly high level, but it was still a plateau. And Tom had a contentious contract negotiation during that time, and that was during a time, he was a newlywed and he was a young father, and he was spending a lot more time out in L.A. And there are people who are close to him who just think that, like, if there had been a team at that time in L.A., this contract dispute had gotten so contentious that maybe he would have tried to force a trade there. Now, would he have ever done that? I don't know for sure. It was just what the people closest to him, his family members, speculated. And, but they obviously pulled through this. And then you have the 2007 season, and that's where things really got difficult because they had just won their 5th Super Bowl together. And I think that Tom wanted to be treated a little bit differently than he had during, his previous unprecedented run.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.